join today. So I'm really excited to do something with your university today. So right now I'm just trying to share my screen. Hopefully it works.
Okay.
Uh, are you able to see my screen?
Not at this moment.
Okay, so all right, let me try again. So it says present a window.
Mhm.
And how about now?
Mm, okay.
All
Oh,
right.
mhm.
All right. So welcome everybody. I was told that this is most of the students are graduating and looking for preparing for jobs. So I thought I would just put together a couple of slides for you so that if anyone is interested in a career in consulting or you have heard anything about consulting, you would benefit from this session. Um, without uh, wasting too much time, I would just like to give you a brief introduction about myself. Um, my name is Kalpana and I'm Malaysian. I've been working with Exchanging Malaysia for the past 6 years, but before I joined Exchanging Malaysia, I've been working with other consulting companies, and overall, I have about 16 years experience. Throughout my career in consulting, I have worked with clients from all over. So, yeah, even in Malaysia, I worked with several big companies as well as clients in Southeast Asia, in the UK, and other regions as well. And it ranges from various industries, so but mainly in telecommunications and the utilities industry. So utilities industry is like the water companies, your electricity companies. For those of you in Selangor, this is like Air Selangor or the equivalent of TNB. But of course, not for those companies, but for other companies in the region. And my experience ranges from various things, primarily in technology and IT industry, but it's not limited to that. I do a lot of things around the business area as well. So the key thing is if anyone in this call is not from an IT background and you have a business degree or an engineering degree, this session will still benefit you because consulting is a very broad industry. And my life outside the office is not just limited to work, but I also love to read a lot about medieval history, astronomy, and so on. So I find that sometimes other areas outside work inspires me for work as well. So I just thought I'll give you a bit of background about myself. And if anyone in the room is a history uh, addict or interested in astronomy, you can contact me after this because it's one of my favorite areas.
Okay. Okay.
And also, before I start, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to ask me because I would love to answer your questions as well. So what is consulting? I think broadly, you might have heard dictionary meaning of it. It just means that you are giving expert advice to someone. You have to be an expert in that field. So if you are a doctor, you'll be giving medical consultation. If you are a lawyer, you'll be giving legal consultation, and and there's various types of consulting. So before if you have no background at all, I just want you to imagine that anyone who is an expert who is helping other people with your expert knowledge, in a way you're providing consulting. And that is the broad term. But you might wonder, so what actually do consultants do? Maybe you have friends and you see them traveling a lot or working with customers, but you just wonder what exactly they do. Um, is if you can picture it, it's just three things that we do. So the most common thing that all consultants do, regardless of industry, is solving business problems. And normally, we from the IT background, we tend to think about what the system can do, or we think about technology. But you got to keep in mind that the business engages us so that they can solve a problem, and ultimately, the person who owns the business would like to make profit. So if the solution that we are providing doesn't enable the business owner to make money, then in a way our solution has failed. So that's the primary one. But sometimes the business is fine, nothing is wrong. But the business owner or the client may want improvements to be better than what their competitors are doing. And they may want to seek a consultant's expertise to recommend improvements. And the third part, which is these days, if you are into the digital business, you might see that consultants are being engaged to just come up with new business ideas. And if your business idea can disrupt a market, so example would be Grab. Before Grab came about, people were just taking taxis to go place to place. But Grab is such a disruptive business idea that um, it has changed the way we travel these days. So consultants are also engaged to come up with new business ideas. So I thought I would just give an example about this. So since MCO, a lot of us during MCO, we are not able to go out, and even now some people are worried about COVID. So if Grab was to engage any of us for a consulting service, um, if they have a problem with Grab where customers are leaving them bad reviews, or suddenly they see their business is dropping, then they have a business problem, and they may engage a consultant. And most often times they may know what is the problem, so they would ask you to suggest a solution so that customer satisfaction improves. Or sometimes they may not know what is wrong, so they may say that I know my customer satisfaction is bad, I'm seeing many bad reviews, but I'm not sure why. So in this instance, what a consultant would do is analyze the data. So you might look at their customer reviews, you might interview Grab customers, and based on the problem, you would suggest solutions. And technology consultants, where we come in, is using technology or using IT to solve a business problem, with the end goal being um, customer satisfaction is improved, for example. Um, in the example, to recommend improvements, it could be Grab is wanting to have an edge because they have a strong competitor in Food Panda. So Food Panda is also doing well, and Grab may feel that if they don't do a significant improvement that puts them ahead of other food delivery companies, they may fall behind. And this is, if you remember back in the day, Nokia. So Nokia was a really good phone. There was no issues. But because they did not reinvent themselves or catch up with the trend, Apple and Samsung and Huawei, all these other companies have a much better product that disrupted Nokia. So that is why sometimes businesses, they need to also look out for improvements, not just address business problems. The third category would be if Grab is already the leader in food delivery, they may feel like they cannot grow beyond this. They have already reached the maximum. And why not they venture into a new area altogether? So they may engage consultants to come up with an idea. Maybe Grab might run a school bus in future. So this is just some examples of what a consultant would do. So that what I explained was just based on travel, education, water, electricity. And regardless of which consulting area, whether they are providing financial consulting or technology consulting, those are the things that they would be doing. But if we zoom into the consulting industry itself, um, if you look at the vertical black boxes, these are industries. So it's not limited to this. Um, your university will be the education sector, and Air Asia would be the travel and transportation sector. TM would be telecommunications sector. So all these businesses, uh, the business domain itself is different. So utilities is quite different from telecommunications, but the underlying way they run the business is the same. So that is where consultants come in, and you would have as I said, consulting is a very broad term, but these are like the areas that are quite common. So you would have heard terms like strategy consultants, or operations consultants, or management consultants, or human resource, or technology. So there's so many types of consultants. And before you start your career in consulting, the reason why I expose you to this terminology is Google is your best friend. So hopefully after this session, you can start, uh, you get familiar with some keywords that you can start checking online. What are these things if you are not familiar yet? But I thought I would just give you a brief overview of the key consulting areas so that even at the end of this session, you may have an idea which area you might be interested in. So I will start from bottom up, right? Bottom technology. So technology is a key area right now. Every business needs to go digital with things like COVID and whatnot. So technology consultants, they help their customers using IT to improve the business. So they look at the customer's existing systems, legacy systems, and see can replacing any of it or enhancing it help them achieve their business outcome. Technology that doesn't achieve a business outcome is not useful, right? Then moving on, financials. So financials is mostly people with accounting background, um, actuarial science, and so on. So they basically provide advice. So they will look at things like the company's revenue, their balance sheet, things like that. But there are other aspects to a business as well. So human resource, which refers to people. So if you take your university, for example, there will be so many departments within the university. And if the university would like to do some changes from the org structure or would like to merge departments, they would need to get some study done on what would be the most efficient way to organize people or improve the business culture in order to achieve the best outcomes for the university. And operations is basically looking at specific departments to see how it can be improved. So, For example, I'm sure there's a department dealing with international students in the university. And currently, if there is any, be the department dealing with international students given COVID. So operation consulting would look at what is being done currently and how can we improve that and improve the operations of a specific area to help the business achieve their business outcome. Then moving on, management is to address the overall organization on how they can improve performance. So management is very broad. So it doesn't cover just HR or finance or technology or just operations. Overall, what can be done to improve the organization? And usually consultants who provide management consulting will then suggest, I think there is a problem with your operations. And that's when the operation study would be done. And then further consulting engagements is needed to form the other areas of the business. And the last but not least, and the most strategic consultants, they are the people who look at big picture. And these are the people who advise usually the Prime Minister's department, advise governments and so on how to set up policies in terms of a regular company, how to set up the business strategy to improve the company's overall profit and ability to compete. So typically, an example of this is if a local Malaysian brand, if we take Maidin for example, and if their stakeholders would like to open up business in, let's say, in emerging markets in Africa, they can't just go there and just open up a business without identifying whether it's the right thing for their business. And that's where strategy consultants will come in and even advise them whether that idea is viable, should they do it. And only if the study, the profitability, and everything is analyzed and they choose to go into that business, then further consulting engagements is needed to form the other areas of the business. So as of now, as you can see, consulting has many different types of consulting. And imagine that sometimes you could have general consultants. So people who can do strategy, they can do management, they can do technology, and they can do it in any industry. So that is a very general consultant. But there are certain companies which provide very specific consulting. They just provide strategy consulting, nothing more. And then you have other types of consulting firms where they provide strategy only for public sector like governments. So they are very specific. So one of the things that you need to keep in mind, not only understanding the different types of consulting, is also research the type of companies that are out there and try to get an idea of what they are looking for in their open roles. And that will give you an idea based on your qualifications, which type of company is easy to enter. As of now, I just want to check, anyone have any questions?
Any questions from the floor? If you have any
Uh, oth-
questions, okay, please.
all right. So otherwise, I would continue. Uh, and is the pace all right?
Okay, no
All
problem.
right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So where does exchanging Malaysia come in and what do we do? So exchanging Malaysia, we do a lot of things. So we are one of the companies that cover different industries. So I myself specialize in utilities and telco, but also able to do travel, transportation, insurance, and education as well. And our company does strategy advisory. So, meaning that we can help you set your business plan and assess whether you should start a particular business. But at the same time, we are also focusing on technology. So technology is a big part of our organization, and how systems can help achieve a business goal. So in order to do that, we tend to do what is the company strategy and provide recommendations on what is the best type of technology that is best placed in order to aid the business. And we also focus on many other areas. So within consulting, we specialize further on how customer and marketing can be utilized to improve the business. So we study what is the customer demographics behavior before we suggest what is the go-to market strategy for particular services. And and underpinning everything is digital. So if you are interested in a career in IT, regardless of consulting or even pure tech companies, it's very important that you understand what are the key digital trends in the market. And many of you would have heard about Internet of Things. Maybe you've even specialized in your degree, and you must understand what is the digital strategy of the particular client that you're working for. If they have a digital strategy, then it's easy. But if they don't, I think it's quite important to understand um, what is how digital strategy can assist the business. So if we take, for example, again, our COVID situation, and one of the new features that Grab offered. So most of you, I'm not sure if you're keen users of Grab, but they had a feature called self pickup, and also you can select your delivery time. That is a very simple feature, but from a digital strategy perspective, I think that has helped them capture a lot of business. So things like that are quite important. And analytics is a very big thing currently. So we believe that even for you to be a big picture consultant where you provide business strategy and so on, you must understand how analytics work and how data can help the business. And sometimes before we propose something to the client, it's important to study what is their data landscape. And as part of our proposal, we always enforce that the customer has a data strategy. And in order to implement all of this, we also provide services to transform the business. So anyone who comes to work for us is this is just a sneak preview of the different types of things that we do and different types of things that you could be working on. So, what is a day in a life of a consultant? So, I mentioned that a consultant solves problems and they find new ideas and so on. But in order to do that, what is a typical day in the office? So, typically, our day starts at 9 a.m., but rarely finishes at 6. So, consultants are usually find ourselves in a situation where it is not like other jobs where we can just clock out at 6 p.m. every day. And the reason why is because normally you have a lot of emails coming in from your customers, from your team members, from your managers, and it takes time to read and respond to all of that. And typical day involves having meetings with clients. So sometimes you would have a meeting with a client to understand about their business, to understand what are their pain points, and subsequently, you would have meetings to present to them your findings and your recommendation. So having meetings with clients and can take a good part of your day, so maybe a couple of hours a day. And then we have deliverables that needs to be updated. So after meeting with clients, you would have documents that you need to prepare and share with the customer. And subsequently, you may also need discussions with your internal team. So you have met with the client. So if you are a junior consultant, you may need to provide your findings to your manager so that they can review what you have done and provide you a suggestion or recommendation. And a lot of time is also spent researching. So Google is your best friend. So you would need to research about the competitor of your client, about new technology. And most of the time, what you have learned in university prepares you 50%, because the real world out there has so many different type of combinations that is not possible to learn just from textbook. So if any of you own a personal business currently, even a small business, you will understand that uh, business problems are usually not from textbook. So researching and analyzing is very important, and you will spend a lot of time thinking as well. How do I solve a problem? And finally, time management is very important. So you would be spending a lot of time planning and preparing your day. So if, I'm not sure if anyone in the room noticed, but this is quite similar to your current life as well. I always feel like my life is quite similar to that of a postgraduate student. You receive assignments, you need to meet with your supervisors or your peers, you need to update your assignments, you need to have your project team meetings, and you need to read a lot in the library. Um, just miss, can you give me a second? Hello, sorry. I just got interrupted with a reminder for another meeting, but that's all right. So, and also, this life cycle is repetitive, so it happens quite often. So it wouldn't be the case of today I've done it, then tomorrow I don't need to research anymore. There's always something new to research and learn. So um, typically, when you go for career guidance and so on, what I find is they tell you what the career is about, but they don't tell you what are the factors that you should consider before you consider that particular career. And for me, when I put together this presentation, I just put myself in your shoes about 15 or 16 years ago. And I asked myself what I wish I knew before I started my career. And the key thing that I wanted to share with you is what is a pro for one person might be a con for another, which is why I did not put pros and cons. And I just wanted to give you the honest feedback so that you can think about it. And if you do embark on a career in consulting, you know that you have considered all the factors. Um, the first factor that is very key is you must love solving problems, because that is the bread and butter of a consultant. If all businesses are perfect, consultants will not have a job. So even if there is no problem, sometimes the consultants will go out and try to find a problem with the client's business and say, I think you have a problem. And that is something that is quite typical of consultants, which customers are also quite wary about. But you must love solving problems. And the second thing is clients. There are many types of clients, and some can be quite challenging. So, as a consultant, you must be able to deal with challenging clients. And I think this applies to any industry. Anyone who pays us money for our services is going to be quite demanding. The third thing is that, like I said, the life of a consultant is just like a postgraduate student. It doesn't change. So you would find yourself constantly learning, and the learning curve is steep. So just like currently in university, you might have a lot of assignments one week and maybe lesser workload on the other. Is similar for a consultant as well. You'll be learning a lot, and it's quite fast paced. Now, someone who loves learning would enjoy this because you get exposed to a lot of things beyond what you have learned in university, and each customer or client you work for will give you new ideas. But as you see the life of consultant or the life of a postgraduate student, you can see that it doesn't stop at a particular time. So working hours can be quite long. So you must be able to manage your personal life as well as your working life. Time management is key. So a lot of times we achieve this by trying to outsource non-important jobs to other people if possible. So example, you may find that you don't have time to cook your own food, so you may tend to either cater food or just buy food to save time so that you can get more work done. The other key factor of consulting is a majority of time you are traveling. So sometimes if your clients are overseas or even in a different state, you'll find yourself being away from home. And for some people, this is the reason why they love consulting, because they get to go to new places. But for some people, maybe not so. The next part is you must be able to work independently, but also in a team. So you must be a people person, but at the same time able to take care of yourself. The next factor to consider is, are you shy? Do you not like talking to people? Because consulting is all about talking and communicating with people. You must love to talk to your clients. You must love to build networks, present, speak in front of people. And lastly, consulting firms are usually made up of many bright individuals, smart people. So you would find yourself in a bit of a competitive environment, just like your current situation in university, where there are many smart students and you need to keep up with them. So essentially, I would say before embarking a career in consulting, to consider these factors, but also the rewards, just like a postgraduate degree or your undergraduate degree, is the salary is what attracts people. It's quite good, and there's lots of benefits, and you get to work with a lot of people who are bright and with big firms as well. So these are the things that you should consider before you decide whether consulting is something you would like to do. And if you still think that yes, I would like to start my career in consulting, then I have broken it down to 5 key areas. So even now, I know that you're still in university, and if you have not graduated, it's okay. You should start now, because the research phase is a key phase. You need to research what are the industry trends. All the keywords I mentioned, just Google it and be familiarize yourself with it. Research what are the consulting companies that are out there, big, small, what are the top ones, and what do they do. I've given you a brief introduction to types of consulting, so do look into that as well. And finally, start identifying what sort of qualifications those firms require. So many technology consulting firms would require a minimum undergraduate degree in any computing related field, but they also do accept engineering students and also other backgrounds. It depends on company to company. Some consulting firms may require an MBA or a postgraduate degree. So before you embark into those studies, it's good to research what field are you interested in, which company would you like to join, and see what are the qualifications listed in their website so that you can prepare accordingly. It's also never too early to start writing your resume. To me, this is like writing your dissertation. It's very complex. So I would suggest to go online, look at samples, and start writing, start creating your framework, and ensure that you proofread. Because consultants must have very good communication and written skills, that if your resume has bad grammar or spelling mistakes, it's not likely to be selected. And you need, for any job, this is not only for consulting, but for any job, if in university you have a social media account, your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel, your LinkedIn page, online presence is good, but you need to start cleaning up your image online slightly, because oftentimes recruiters do look at Facebook profiles, Instagram profiles, just to get an idea of the type of candidate that's coming through the door. So in a way, it's a double-edged sword. If your online presence depicts your professional image or gives an image that you want to portray, it can be a bonus point. But if you're always posting about negative things, recruiters may think twice about that. Finally, once your resume is ready, you should start sending your applications, and you should tailor your resume for the role that you're applying for. So that makes it more appropriate for that particular company. And it's very important that you start networking with other professionals as well. So if you could attend events such as today, you start networking with people. Excuse me. And one important tip that I would like to share is submit your resume even if there's no open role in that particular company. So as you're researching about consulting companies, there will always be a link in the website says contact us, and submit your resumes, because even if they don't have an open role, if they see your profile and it's very interesting, they may consider you whenever a new role opens up, and is very powerful. And finally, once your application is through, it's very important that you prepare for the interview. So interview is a very important step. For consulting firms, is normally um, 2 to 3 stages. So you would have your first interview with the HR person in the company, who would ask basic questions. For example, are you willing to travel, and how soon can you join the job, things like that. And their main objective is to identify your communication skills and to make sure that you fit the basic criteria. Second interview is normally with a manager who would assess whether you can fit into the team. So start researching about consulting interviews online, watch YouTube videos for tips, um, read online, and there are many case studies available online on types of case studies you're given in the interview. So start practicing, because practice makes perfect. And Another important part of consulting is your image. So whenever you're going for the interview, it's quite important that you project the image of a consultant. Dress professionally and formally if possible. And finally, when the interviewer asks you questions, it's very important that you stay confident. If you don't know the answer, just politely tell the interviewer that you are not sure of the answer. But do not get nervous and not speak anything, because a consultant is constantly dealing with clients, and clients will say things that you do not know about. So the important thing that the interviewer is looking for is, can you manage a situation where you do not know the answer? And if you reached up to this stage, you've gone through the interview. The final interview is normally with a partner. So this is equivalent of like a CEO or someone of that stature. And they would just basically be meeting you to see your overall fit for the organization. And after 3 interviews, 2 to 3 interviews, if you are through, then you have landed the job. And the journey doesn't end there. So when you get the job, that's where it really begins. And if any of you have do get a job in consulting, just remember a few pointers. Google is your best friend. Anything that is said in a meeting or in conversation, or if you read about something, do check it online, do research about it. And you need to be fairly good with your PowerPoint and Excel. So these two tools are used a lot by consultants. So even in university, it's good for you to try to do some free courses or explore these two tools, so that when you start your job, you are familiar. And right now is the time to start training to be punctual, because being punctual is quite key in consulting. And you have to prepare to be curious and to learn, um, because most of the time you will not know the answer. So it is a constant learning process. And and if you're not sure, do ask. So some of the things that, if you notice, that I have recommended for the job section also applies currently to your education. So if you start having the mindset of a consultant, and approach your education with the same mindset, I think you will be in the right track when you are applying for a job as a consultant. So I hope that this couple of slides gives you an idea of consulting, and I hope I have covered the key points that that I can think of when I started my journey. So that's all from me. So I'm open for any questions from anyone in the room.
All right, so Miss, you have covered, I would say, a very comprehensive presentation. Means from the types of consulting, the criteria to be a consultant, how to start your career in consulting is very comprehensive. So I would like to open the floor for any questions, because I believe that it is only applicable to other industries as well. Means it is not only limited to IT
That's right.
sector only.
That's right.
When you shared about criteria of being a consultant, one of it is critical thinking, creativity, you know. So how would you encourage our students to be, more creative, be a critical thinker? Means that when they go for interview sessions, they can, have that confidence level, and they can compete with the other candidates. What would you say
So
there?
So that's a good question, and there are two ways to approach it. So one way is the textbook way, where just Google online for case studies. So look at there's case study for Lego, for Nokia, and just Google for that and see how the case study is approached and see how they apply critical thinking in that. And that is a very safe approach. But the other creative approach is look at things in day-to-day life. So apps, especially IT students and the young students love to use apps, TikTok, Grab, or Instagram, and
Mm-hmm.
analyze why you like to use that apps. And if you like, why? If you don't like, why? And whenever your interviewer asks you how can we improve this business problem, most often you can apply some of your thought process then because you've already given some thought about things in your day-to-day life. So I think it's a continuous process that I'm sure that the students would have very good ideas.
Okay, alright. So means that one thing that can improve them is by reading and also practicing in our daily life. Because I've heard before, to be a consultant, you have to see problems as your opportunity, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
That's
alright.
right.
Okay, good. Any other questions from the floor?
I have a question. Hello.
Okay. Can you speak
Uh, uh,
louder, brother?
Good evening. First of all, I'm sorry because my camera is not working well. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The question to Miss Kalpana. Okay. Based on your experience, 16 years in consulting fields and dealing with the company. As for fresh graduate, do you have a suggestion what type of company do we need to look at while searching the job? For example, is it a startup company or strong company or a private company or whatever? And due to COVID, okay, do you have a suggestion what type of company that is or what type of industry that affect a lot due to this COVID situation. Okay. So is it do we have to avoid that company or not? Okay.
All right. So I
Okay.
think I will start with the last point, which company to avoid because of COVID. I think generally right now most industries are slightly affected, but travel and transportation is a bit more because of customer nervousness about current COVID. And if you see airline industries are the most one of the most hard hit right now. But as a consultant, I'll still see that as an opportunity because some of these airlines um, do not depend on just airline as their main source of income. So if we look at AirAsia, they do branch out into other items, and I would not be surprised if soon they decide to become a software company because they have a very strong IT. So I would say any company that is hiring right now definitely have opportunities within the organization. And as a fresh grad, I wouldn't avoid them because there's nothing to lose by applying for a job. And as a fresh grad, which company is best? Again, it is subjective because a startup company is very exciting. So if you look at startups like Grab, uh, they are very exciting, but they're also very focused on one particular area. You lose the opportunity to look at the wider picture before zooming into one particular thing. But at the same time, in a large company, like a McKinsey or Bain, which are the top tier strategy companies, you will be so low down the ladder that you might not get the opportunity to grow as fast as you want, and the environment might be very competitive. But their brand name is really good. It's really easy to get future opportunities after you exit the organization. And I personally have worked in all three. So my first job started in a very niche telco company. So I specialized in telco consulting. And then I went into a big consulting firm, Accenture, which is quite big. And then now in a organization which is like a startup, but also like a normal consulting firm. And I can say the experiences in all three are very different. So I would suggest that you do some research on the companies, and there are many YouTube videos of people who work there that give quite a good idea of how life is there. So as a fresh grad, the only thing I can say is that don't avoid trying anything because you have nothing to lose.
All right. Thank you, Miss Kalpana.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brother Ali, for the questions. Any other questions? All right, Miss. Before our graduate ready to enter, to be a consultant, do they have to, say for example, they learn about engineering. So one day they would like to be a consultant in engineering field. So do they have to be an engineer first in order to be a consultant in that field?
No. So I think consulting, the good thing is that is your creative thinking. So able to solve a problem, and creative thinking is most important, because even if you are working for an engineering client, you will just research about the industry, and therefore domain experience is not needed. But this is only applicable for the type of consulting that I shared earlier. Of course, for professional consulting like legal services and medical, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. But for the areas that I suggested, key thing is that, for example, a strategy consultant, you need to understand how to formulate a business plan. And normally, fresh grads are not expected to know when they start working. There will be senior people in the organization that will train you. But what you need to be aware of is how to research. So I can say that. As long as you have the ability to research and analyze things and quite creative, you would be able to work in any of those areas I shared.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So, do you have anything to add, Miss Kalpana?
I would just like to thank university for giving me the opportunity, and I hope that all participants today leave with some ideas and will help your journey to for a job search. And if anyone is interested to find out more about consulting or about anything about exchanging Malaysia, also do reach out to me, because as I said, no company will turn down resumes. We love to receive resumes because we never know when an opening is there. So
Yes,
welcome anyone who would like to contact me
that's
further.
true. So how can they reach you out? I mean, through LinkedIn or
Um, I
email?
can provide my email address. I will just message the organizer.
Ah,
And
no problem.
also, I'm also available on LinkedIn, Kalpana Karupiah, so you can send me a message over there as well.
Great. Okay. All right. So, if there is any questions from the floor, I think we have reached to the end of our session. It was indeed a very fruitful discussion that we had just now. So, on behalf of the organizer, we would like to apologize for any shortcomings from our end, Miss Kalpana. So, I hope that
No.
this is not going to be the uh, most probably we can have more engagement sessions. Thank you.
Yes, Definitely, and definitely looking forward to work with the university in future.
All right, great. Okay, so if there is any questions, so I would like to end our session. Okay. So thank you very much, Miss Kalpana. Thank you very much for your sharing. Thank you very much for your time. So keep in touch. All right.
Thank you very much, and good luck to everyone, and hope you find your perfect career soon.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
bye.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.